The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
All right, good day, tokers and tokettes. Welcome. We made it to the weekend. It's Friday, March 8th, 2013, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Hat's not working with the green screen. Okay, we have got some great content for you today on the show, all sorts of stuff to look at. We're going to start off with a look at a headline that is making the rounds today, a big shocking headline about how so many more people are testing positive on workplace drug screens. We're going to get behind the headlines on that. Actually, we're going to take it into the radical rant because I've got to spend a lot of time on this one. We're going to dig into these statistics that are being brought forth by Quest Diagnostics, and I'll also debunk a little bit of this fear-mongering about marijuana smokers and our productivity and safety in the workplace. So stick around for that in the Radical Rant. At 5:30, we're going to do a little bit of previewing. We have got a great benefit coming up tomorrow at the world-famous Cannabis Cafe right here about 6 blocks away from the studio for Brave Michaela and her family. So we're going to be there. Skunk Magazine's putting it on. It's going to be a real good time. We'll get some video from there if we can. We'll see what we can do about that. But we will be there tomorrow night, world-famous Cannabis Cafe, and keep your fingers crossed. I'm hoping we get Brandon and Aaron calling in at 5:30 and maybe even Elise McDonough from High Times. A lot of stuff still up in the air, people running around, and we're still waiting for some emails to get back, but we're putting it together live. We'll find out who we talk to at 5:30. Also, got some preview of my presentation that I'll be doing a week from today in Atlanta, Georgia, the debunking of Project Sam and Kevin Sabet. We'll show some slides and video from that for you as well in our first hour, and we'll show some in our Toker Talk Radio hour in hour 2. It's also Rockin' Friday, so we've got Herb Thrasher joining us. We've got a great rockin' tune from Ichabod coming up. Ichabod will be a guest on the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour tonight at 8 p.m. Pacific time right here on 420radio.org, so you'll want to check that out. We're also going to go behind the headlines on a story that's really got me concerned here. 7 years for a woman in a DUI case where even the prosecutors admit that the marijuana had no impact whatsoever on the accident. So we'll take a look at that at Behind the Headlines. And in our news today, 420 Radio News, we've got the end of the 502 meetings here in Washington State. Lawmakers in Washington looking for the money from marijuana, a bill to protect people for organ transplants with medical marijuana in New Jersey, and more. Coming up on The Russ Belville Show.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to The Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa. Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
Now it's time for our 420 radio news for Friday, March 8th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. Final state marijuana forum held in Bremerton from the Seattle Times. About 200 people attended a marijuana forum Thursday night in Bremerton, Washington, the last of 8 state liquor control board hearings that have been held around the state as it prepares to draft licensing regulations. The Kitsap Sun reports speakers asked for rules that would allow a marijuana cottage industry rather than a few corporate producers and a black market. Others expressed concerns about high taxes, the marijuana blood limit for driving, and exposing drug use to the children. Washington lawmakers already looking to tap marijuana revenue from K2.com. Washington state lawmakers are already starting to count on revenue from the legalization of marijuana, with the House approving a bill that would tap those tax dollars to expand early learning. Before the House passed the bill on Wednesday by a 59-38 margin, Representative Ruth Cagey, a Democrat from Shoreline, said she couldn't think of a better use for the money. She argued that there was a clear nexus between helping children early in life and avoiding troubles later. If the legal marijuana system does get implemented, the state stands to bring in hefty new tax revenues. The product would be taxed heavily, with analysts estimating that a legal pot market could bring Washington hundreds of millions of dollars a year in new money. Cagey's proposal is expected to cost more than $200 million per year by the 2017 biennium. The bill now goes to the state Senate. A new bill would ensure medical marijuana users are not kicked off organ transplant lists, approved by the Senate Health Panel in New Jersey. This from politicernewjersey.com. A bill sponsored by Senators Joseph Vitale and Nicholas Scutari that would ensure a person's use of medical marijuana would not prohibit him or her from receiving needed medical care, such as an organ transplant, was approved today by the Senate Health, Human Services, and Senior Citizens Committee. The bill, S-1220, would provide that a registered qualifying patient's authorized use of medical marijuana would be considered the equivalent to using other prescribed medications rather than it being an illicit substance, and therefore would not disqualify the person from needed care, such as an organ transplant. Marijuana Joint Committee created in Colorado legislature. From the businessjournals.com. Now that Amendment 64 Implementation Task Force has largely finished its work and is ready to hand 74 recommendations to the Colorado legislature, a joint select committee was appointed Thursday to process the suggestions. The new 10-member committee, appointed by House Speaker Mark Ferrandino, Democrat of Denver, and Senate President John Morse, Democrat of Colorado Springs, has members from both chambers. Assistant Majority Leader Don Pabon, Democrat of Denver, was appointed today as the Select Committee's chairman. On the issue of how to tax the retail marijuana, Pabon told the Denver Business Journal, quote, there needs to be some dynamic modeling and tax rate analysis to find that sweet spot. We're trying to encourage the growth of a new industry. Suspects identified in standoff at San Francisco pot grow. This from CBS San Francisco. San Francisco police on Thursday identified 4 men who were arrested after allegedly trying to rob a marijuana growing operation in the city's Bayview district on Wednesday. The standoff began at 3:50 in the morning, where suspects wearing ski masks tried to rob the facility, which was apparently permitted by the city and contained about 1,000 marijuana plants. 3 suspects then fled on foot, but were arrested about 2 blocks away. The other suspect remained inside with employees there for several hours while police surrounded the building and closed off nearby streets. Around 8:30 in the morning, officers led 4 people, believed to be facility employees, out of the building, and the standoff continued until about 10 in the morning, when the suspect finally surrendered to tactical officers accompanied by a canine unit. All 4 suspects, all San Francisco residents, were booked into jail on suspicion of burglary, robbery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and conspiracy. Attorney General Holder is still stalling on the time for marijuana legalization. When pressed today by reporters, Attorney General Holder said the information will still be forthcoming. We will report it as soon as it's available. And that's your 420 Radio News for Friday, March 8th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. When we come back, we go behind the headlines and take a look at a case in Chicago where a woman has been given 7 years in prison for a fatal accident where marijuana was not the cause. But she got the years because she had marijuana in her system. We'll analyze that when we come back. You're listening to 420radio.org.
Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, home of the famous lighter leash. Herb Age Designs, get your Herb Age t-shirts and hoodies and show your pride. Herb Age Designs, we've got frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs. We've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. We'll see you at this year's Hemp Fest. Crank it up.
The Russ Belville Show reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while and share.
This day was hard and your work was long and you need a break from all that's wrong. You better look at the clock cause it's 4:19. Time to reach in that pocket for your bag of green and smoke that weed.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show.
Welcome back. Time for us to go behind the headlines, 13 after the hour. And in this next story, which is not the Montana story that's up there, been having some trouble with the graphics today. My apologies. This story comes to us from Chicago, Illinois. And in this story, we have a woman who was charged with causing a fatal accident. Basically, what had happened is that she got herself... she was a little bit distracted in her car and then lost... track of what was going on, ran into another car that was parked into another car that then was pushed out into the streets, and that is where it hit a group of motorcyclists, harming many of them and killing 2. Now, in this case, this woman just received a sentence from Judge Alan Anderson of 7 years in prison for causing this crash back in 2009 that killed these 2 people. She had pleaded guilty in December to 2 counts of aggravated DUI, and she must serve 85%, or at least nearly 6 years, of that sentence. Now, here's where the story gets interesting. The DUI portion that she is charged with comes from the fact that after the accident and after there was blood tests taken, that they found trace amounts of marijuana in her system. Now, the prosecutors in this case were interviewed about this, and the prosecutors made it clear, according to the reporting of it in the Chicago papers, the prosecutors made it clear that they don't believe marijuana caused the woman to hit the car on the morning of May 23rd, 2009. 2 cars were stopped in front of her, turning left off the highway. She allegedly slammed into the rear car, into the front one, pushed it into the motorcyclists, and killed the 2 motorcyclists on the bike. If anything, prosecutors say, Bernard was apparently texting at or around the time of the collision, which may have prevented her from keeping a proper lookout. Now, the prosecutors have evidence. They found that there was a text that she had sent to her boyfriend that said she was way too sick to drive, and she sent the text at 8:23 in the morning. The crash occurred between 8:20 and 8:25, according to media reports. Now, in her defense, she testified that what had happened had nothing to do with texting, but that she was reaching for her sunglasses because sunlight was reflecting off the chrome of the motorcycles and kind of doing a strobe effect. This is early in the morning, 8:25 in the morning in May in Chicago. So I imagine the sun's pretty low on the horizon and you'll get that reflection pattern. She said it kind of did a strobe light effect, and she was reaching for her glasses, looked down, ran into the cars. So either way, we have her, admitting here that she was being negligent or looking away at the time. We have the prosecutors saying that, no, it's probably having something to do with text. So where does the marijuana come in here? The prosecutors aren't saying that her marijuana use caused the wreck. She's not alleging, nobody's alleging that she was high at the time. In fact, when they got the information back from the toxicology screens, that's where the prosecutor said, no, there's probably, not enough in her system to have really had any effect on her driving. So the marijuana had nothing to do with it. So why is she pleading guilty to 2 counts of aggravated DUI? Why is this not a case of negligent homicide, negligent, vehicular manslaughter, whatever it might be? Here is why. This is reporting coming from the Chicago Sun-Times. Bernard became vulnerable to the more serious charges after an April Illinois Supreme Court decision ruled that prosecutors did not have to prove impairment was a proximate cause of a fatal crash, but just that defendants have any amount of drug in their systems. That decision prompted prosecutors to upgrade the charges and potential penalties against Bernard. So here we have prosecutors who know the marijuana did not cause the crash, who admit that it probably had nothing to do with her causing the crash, but because they can, they go ahead and upgrade the charges to the DUI. They make the worst charges here and force her to plead guilty to something she was not guilty of. She was not impaired while she was driving. She was not driving under the influence of cannabis. She was not in any way being irresponsible. This is just a case of discrimination against a marijuana user. That's plain and simple. Here we have, it's a sad thing. And of course, nobody, is saying that maybe she shouldn't be punished for this. When you wreck your car and wrecking your car ends up killing somebody, there's certainly some punishment that is going to be meted out. But in this sort of a case, this needs to be charged as what it is, being distracted, as an accident, as, and if the prosecutors want to push that she was texting, then you've got negligence, you've got all sorts of other charges there. But to press this charge of DUI, when they themselves know that wasn't it, they're just using it because, well, it's in the toolkit, we might as well use it. How is that justice for anyone? Let's find out what a judge and a jury of her peers might have come to as far as conclusions on guilt and culpability and how much sentence she should have had based on what the facts of the case are. Yesterday, I had to tell a story of the judge not allowing a woman to have her 20-day-old infant in the courtroom because it might prejudice the jury. It might lead the jury to come to a wrong conclusion about that person. But in this case, we can admit the negligible amount of marijuana or marijuana metabolite she might have had in her system, and don't think that doesn't prejudice the jury. They can say all they want that, there wasn't enough in there or whatever, but as soon as the jury hears, pot smoker, she had pot in her system, they don't know chemistry, they don't know nanograms per milliliter, they don't know tolerance, they don't know metabolite from metabolic rate from, Mediterranean, Louisiana. They don't know. This is just insane that this is the way our Justice Department is played, and how the use of marijuana in the system through drug testing, through all these ancillary ways, we get treated as second-class citizens and discriminated against merely for the fact that we use marijuana, and that marijuana, unlike every other drug out there,
tends to stay detectable in our systems for longer lengths of time. If this woman is somebody who is abusing OxyContin or heroin or methamphetamine a week or two ago, it wouldn't have been enough in her system to have detected any. And she'd have been able to face justice for what she actually did, either was distracted or was texting, and not for the fact that she happened to choose a substance safer than alcohol. Oh, it makes me so mad.
Rebel.
Fortunately, we got some Rockin' Friday coming up. That'll put me in a good mood. We got Ichabod and Herb Thrasher coming up next.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
The High Times Cannabis Cup in Amsterdam is recognized as the world's premier marijuana competition. Over the years, thousands of judges have attended the Cannabis Cup, sampling the best indicas, best sativas, best hybrids, and the best hash on the planet. In the April 2013 issue of High Times, read all about the sensational 25th Cannabis Cup that took place in November. Find out about the latest killer strains. Decide what to grow in your garden this year. Celebrate 25 years of the Cannabis Cup in this very special issue of High Times magazine. On sale now.
It's quite simple. I'm a very nasty drunk. I get mean. I get loud. I'll tell your deepest, darkest secrets to a stranger, and I'll puke on your shoes. So, if that's the kind of behavior that this culture promotes, fuck it.
Your one-room schoolhouse of choice. Your one-stop freedom shop. It's the Libra Lounge.
Sundays at 3 right here on 420radio.org.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Rockin' Friday, featuring rock, metal, and the hard edge of alternative country. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, time for you to turn it up all the way to 11 because we got Herb Thrasher on the line. How you doing, Herb?
Oh, man, we're doing great. And, another beautiful day in Portland, and I hope you guys are having a beautiful day out there, too.
Yeah, a little bit of sun came out. Me and Roscoe made sure all the squirrels were in the trees out in the park, so it's all good here.
That's right, man. That's metal right there.
Hey, we got all sorts of fun stuff coming up tonight and tomorrow night. Let's tell people about it. What do we got for tonight for the Herb Thrasher Show?
We do, man. We got a freaking jam-packed, bowl-packed show tonight with got a great band out of Boston, man. These guys have been around a while, and we've been playing their song Huckleberry on the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour show for a few months now, and it was time to bring these guys to Rockin' Friday and time to talk to them, too, as John, the vocalist from Ichabod, is going to be my guest tonight on the show. He's going to call in, and we're going to talk to him about their brand-new album, Dreamscapes from Dead Space, and their brand-new song, Huckleberry. Hope you guys have your Huckleberry all loaded up and ready to go. Right. And, going to talk good stuff. We have Michaela. There's a fundraising event at the world-famous Cannabis Cafe tomorrow night, and it's being sponsored by Skunk Magazine and the cafe, and lots are going to be there. And you guys are familiar with Michaela because we threw a fundraiser for her like a month ago on 420 Radio. And so we'll get an update tonight from their camp. Somebody's going to call in. I have a feeling it's either going to be Madeline or Brandon. And we'll see what's up. And then for hour two, talk a little sports. There's a boxing story going on, and we'll start getting ready for March Madness. And then one of our very own, Steve Veteran, is a chat room VIP. Just turning out, he was just on his way to being a legend. And he kind of had a bad thing and passed away. And we're going to give a tribute to that guy tonight, man. He was a big acid rock fan. And pretty much for hour two, we've got some great tunes picked out. So you guys join us tonight, and let's do some rockin' and see what's up.
Acid
and
rock
for
hour.
today's rockin' tune, as I mentioned, this is Ichabod. These guys are from Boston. And a great, great band, kind of sludgy and a little bit of, has some 70s psychedelic and progressive sounds in there. Kind of doomy and They've been around a while. The band started in 1998 and kind of progressed through the 2000s and have really kind of become their own now. And this is like their 5th full-length album, and you can go and check this album out. They have the whole album out on the Bandcamp page, and Say Goodbye 2012 Bandcamp, and you can listen to this album. We're going to have 3-4 songs from this album tonight and play them. And today's song is Huckleberry, and you guys know the Huckleberry. So load those balls, turn it up, and keep joining Russ, and join us tonight for the Herb Thrasher Flower at 8 o'clock. And you guys be safe. Have a great weekend. Keep rocking.
All right, thanks, Herb, man.
Well, I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your Huckleberry.
is it?
It's me, Dave. Open up, man. I got the stuff.
Who is it?
It's me, Dave, man. Open up. I got the stuff.
Who?
It's Dave, man. Open up. I think the cops saw me come in here.
Who is it?
It's Dave, man. Will you open up? I got the stuff with me.
Who?
Dave, man. Open up.
Dave?
Yeah, Dave. Come on, man. Open up. I think the cops saw me.
Dave's not here.
Open up the door. It's Dave.
Who?
Dave. D-A-V-E. Will you open up the goddamn door? Yeah, Dave.
Dave?
Right, man. Dave. Now, will you open up the door?
Dave's not here.
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for NORML. And if you're one of the 26 million Americans who smoked marijuana last year, you need to get involved in the drive to legalize marijuana. We need your help to stop the senseless arrest of more than 800,000 Americans each year on marijuana charges. Together, we can end marijuana prohibition and stop the arrests of marijuana smokers. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORML.
Activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
All right, welcome back, everybody. And for the activist agenda today, I am going to take a look and a preview at some of the slides that I'll be presenting at the Southern Cannabis Reform Conference a week from today. So let's just dig in. Basically, the presentation is on what I call debunking Goldilocks, the new drug war rhetoric. And this is about that third way, kinder, gentler drug war strategy that has been advocated by Kevin Sabet and Project Sam. And we're starting to hear it from the drug czar as well. So we'll just get into this. Of course, we're speaking of Kevin Sabet, who is named Legalization's #1 enemy by Rolling Stone magazine. He's served 3 administrations as a drug policy advisor, and he's the architect of Project Sam, Smart Approaches to Marijuana. And while he's a very, very smart man, he's not so internet savvy. You know how they say those who do not learn from their history are doomed to repeat it? Let me tell you the story of Massachusetts Question 3. In 2012, they had this on the ballot to legalize medical marijuana use. Now, Kevin Sabet was part of the opposition to this, which was wildly popular. It was about 60% or over in the polls leading up to the election. And he formed a Vote No on Question 3 organization. He then put out a press release about this new organization, Vote No on Question 3, but he did not secure the web domain votenooonquestion3.org. Mike Can, aka Mike Crawford, an activist in Boston, did, and produced one of the greatest spoof websites ever, gaining national media attention. For his website, votenooonquestion3.org. Fact: marijuana is the gateway drug to Twinkies. Local Drug Dealers Union says vote no on Question 3. Elementary school counselor speaks out against medical marijuana. No marijuana smoker has ever been successful. The Mayans believe the world will end in 2012 because of marijuana. And fact: medical marijuana will hurt opiate-based medication sales. So Project Sam is Smart Approaches to Marijuana. Fast forward to the November elections, the medical marijuana in Massachusetts passed with over 60% support, and legalization passes in Colorado and Washington with 55% support. Now, Kevin Sabet claims that Patrick J. Kennedy, the former representative, was also shocked by this move to legalize marijuana, and they formed Smart Approaches to Marijuana, their so-called third-way strategy known as Project Sam. But unfortunately, ProjectSam.com is already taken by a cinema audio tech project. It's basically a new technology for, high-definition sound in theaters. But he decides to go ahead with the name anyway and announces Project Sam in Denver on January 11th. Now, since he could not get the web domain Project Sam for his smart approaches to marijuana, and by the way, does that sound kind of familiar? If it doesn't, Smart Colorado was the organization against legalization, and New Approach Washington was the organization for legalization in Washington. He just kind of mashed them up there. Smart approaches to marijuana. So since he could not get ProjectSam.com, he decides that for smart approaches to marijuana, the website should be LearnAboutSam.com. He went and got LearnAboutSam.com and @LearnAboutSam on Twitter. This is where I come in. Learn About Sam is a website that looks like this. Smart approaches to marijuana, features some slides of Patrick Kennedy, information about the news, the policy, recent videos, and so forth. I was stunned to find out, given his history with the whole Vote No on Question3.org situation, that he had not gotten the website smartapproaches.com, which you would think would be the most natural and logical website to get if your group is called Smart Approaches to Marijuana. I've styled mine as Smart Approaches to Marijuana Use Except Legalization, aka Samuel, and dressed all of the people up in big fake Spock goatees. So, fake evil Spock goatees, I should say, with videos available and so forth. And what I've done with this website is done a complete mock-up of every single post they've ever made. When they put something new up, I put it up on the Smart Approaches website. And I also managed to secure @SmartApproaches on Twitter as well. So it's even happening now that I've seen a couple of news stories where Kevin Sabet has gone to a local place, and in announcing it, the news organization has tweeted out @SmartApproaches. So it's been very, very fulfilling to me. Let's start with the Goldilocks frame that we're here to debunk. Prohibitionists find themselves in the minority for the first time in the history of the drug war. They must rebrand their policies, abandon their least popular ones, and redirect popular support for reforming marijuana laws. The solution is to portray their position as the rational midpoint between two extremes. Prohibition is too hard, legalization is too soft, but rehabilitation is just right. Now, we have some example videos from some of the appearances of Kevin Sabet and of Patrick Kennedy. We'll see if the audio comes through on these. I think that should.
That means we would reject either extreme dichotomy, and that's what Project Sam is about. On the one hand, old policies of incarceration and prohibition, but on the other hand, what is sort of being rebranded as new, but is not new, legalization.
So prohibition is too hard. He'll readily admit that we've got to get away from those harsh elements of prohibition, but this legalization, that goes too far. He's going to set himself up in the middle.
We've either got to lock them up or light it up. There is no kind of middle ground here, and that's what I hope to engender through this campaign.
Now, what we have here is a logical fallacy alert. They've set up what we call a straw man of a false dichotomy. They are claiming that we are making an argument that it's either lock them up or light it up. It's either prohibition or legalization. And the idea is to paint both as extremes and Project Sam as the reasonable middle ground. And the way to debunk this, if you need a quick 6-second soundbite, give them the true dichotomy. Either adults are allowed to use a substance safer than alcohol, or they are punished for using a substance safer than alcohol. Put them on the defensive. This is what I like to call rhetorical jujitsu. Jujitsu is a martial art that redirects an opponent's force to his disadvantage. With the false dichotomy, always bring the discussion back around to safer than alcohol. By using the phrase safer than alcohol, this implicitly forces the audience to question, why doesn't Project Sam advocate these policies for alcohol use, which everyone knows causes far much more damage and cost to society? This puts Project Sam back into the Chicken Little frame. The sky is falling. We can't legalize because terrible things will happen, and takes them out of their comfort zone of appearing to be the safe, rational middle ground, puts them on the defensive as being the irrational, sky is falling Chicken Little people again.
We're not saying reefer madness type arguments that if you smoke marijuana, you're going to immediately do heroin or you're going to die. We're not saying that.
Aha. And this is how we know we're winning, folks, because Kevin Sabet just made a huge framing error. Don't think of an elephant. What did you just see in your mind? An elephant. Kevin Sabet saying reefer madness shows that we've forced him to play in our frames. It reveals that what Project Sam is really engaged in here is a strategic retreat in the drug war that only 7% of the United States public supports. So if he's going to play in our frame of reefer madness, keep him there. Is it not reefer madness to assume we can't trust adults to handle a substance safer than alcohol? This leads to one of the attack points that they have with Project Sam. To attack the fiscal imperative of marijuana legalization, which is very popular, drug warriors need to convince people that the tax benefits can never be realized. Both alcohol and tobacco are conflated with marijuana to confuse people about the tax benefits. So sit back and learn how spending money on marijuana prohibition while bringing in no tax money is somehow a good thing in a piece of algebra I like to call the Sabet conjecture.
For every dollar we get on alcohol and tobacco tax in this country, we spend $10 in lost social costs. So people that look at this know this is actually a loss leader.
People say who are proposing this that it's going to create a new revenue stream. But we know what the revenue stream in alcohol has done. For every dollar we bring in for alcohol revenue, we spend 10 in our emergency rooms, in drunk driving accidents, in domestic violence.
For every dollar in taxes, we spend 10 in social costs.
This is the classic bait and switch. Alcohol and tobacco, and it is true, it has a negative truth to it. Alcohol and tobacco bring in about $40 billion a year in tax revenues, but they exact about $400 billion in social costs. So the idea here is, well, therefore, taxing marijuana would never bring in as much as it costs society. But this ignores three salient points. 1, alcohol and tobacco are toxic and addictive. 2, there already exists costs from marijuana. They're already here. It's not like marijuana doesn't exist. If there's a cost, we're paying it already. And 3, we're spending more costs to prohibit marijuana and creating more social costs because of the prohibition. I like to look at the data. Here is a look from a study of costs per Canadian per year for healthcare and enforcement costs. Now, this is Canada, so the money's a little bit different, but I think it's still relevant here. They found that the health costs per user of tobacco was $822 a year. Per user of alcohol was $165 a year, and per user, $20 a year from cannabis. So, Kevin Sabet, do you really mean to tell us we couldn't possibly come up with $20 in taxes from a pot smoker in a year? Another argument that's important for them to make is to frighten us. They must attack one of the strengths of the legalization argument. Since the lure of tax revenue and job creation is a powerful talking point, they must convince the public that only bad things can come from legalization. Here, prohibitionists conflate marijuana with tobacco to stain legalization with the controversy over cigarette smoking in what I call big marijuana equals big tobacco.
It's already in 18 states. It's going even further. And before we know it, we're going to wake up one day and we're going to have another tobacco industry. It's going to be called the marijuana industry. We already know what big tobacco did to our kids. Joe Camel targeting kids.
Have you seen this camel? Joe Camel, missing since 1998. Known associates? The Marlboro Man. Known hangouts? NASCAR's Winston Cup Race Series. Last seen? Magazine and TV ads in the 20th century.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisements because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Cast your eyes up to the skies. What is it to live and die? Calculated stars and lights.
Have you considered medical marijuana? Double-blind, peer-reviewed studies have found cannabinoid therapies to be successful in treating the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, brain cancer, chronic pain, diabetes mellitus, dystonia, fibromyalgia, GI disorders, hepatitis C, HIV/AIDS, hypertension, incontinence, MRSA, multiple sclerosis, osteoporosis, pruritus, rheumatoid arthritis, sleep apnea, and Tourette's syndrome, as well as anecdotal evidence in suggesting relief from anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress, plus reduction in the need for narcotic painkillers. Side effects from medical marijuana can include euphoria, relaxation, anxiety, panic reaction, paranoia, tachycardia, dry eyes, dry mouth, concentration and reaction time impairments, appetite increase, and in some U.S. states, arrest and incarceration. But medical marijuana is non-toxic and cannot cause overdose. Medical marijuana, it's not for everyone, but ask your doctor if medical marijuana may be right for you.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel?
The Russ Belville Show reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while. Share.
You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant. All right, folks, time for the Radical Rant. And, you know, the reason I'm here has all to do with workplace drug testing. And it's one of the things I rail about the most. I just got this headline that came across the Public Relations Newswire, and Huffington Post put it this way. U.S. job seekers test positive for drugs at highest rate since 2007, study finds. So I checked the source on this, and this is the source, of course, comes from Quest Diagnostics. And if you don't know Quest Diagnostics, they're the largest drug testing corporation in America, in the world, I believe, but definitely in America, processing millions and millions of drug tests, whose entire business model relies on making sure marijuana is illegal so there's people to test. Anyway, Quest Diagnostic and their doctor, Dr. Barry Sample, yes, Dr. Barry Sample, put out this press release that says, job candidates subject to pre-employment drug screening tested positive for illicit drugs at a greater rate for the first 6 months of 2012 than in all of 2011. According to Drug Testing Index, the data was released today by Quest Diagnostics, the world's leading provider of diagnostic information services. Answer my question. World's largest. The positivity rate from pre-employment urine drug screening in the U.S. general workforce increased to 5.7%. All right, so the headline's been repeated all over the place. People casually looking around the news. Oh my God, we're legalizing marijuana. Now look what's happening. The drug test rates are up. We can't find any employees. They're all failing the drug test. It's up 5%, 5.7%. Oh my God. Well, let's take a deeper look at this, shall we? First of all, while the pre-employment urine drug screening increased 5.7%, positivity for random drug screening is down 5.8%. So we're catching or discriminating against more cannabis consumers before they get a job, but people that have jobs that are randomly tested, fewer and fewer of them are being caught for drugs. The positivity rate for pre-employment drug screening for federally mandated safety-sensitive workforces remained unchanged. That's your DOT drivers, for example, truck drivers and such, has remained unchanged. So in the industries where safety is paramount and allegedly we'd have the most fear of the pot smokers, we're not catching any more of them than we did before. Only in all the other jobs are we catching them more, in the private workforce. Now, the positivity rate from random testing for those federal drug safety sensitive workforce people was also down 6.7%. So
What again is the big scandal, the big problem? When almost all of the drug testing rates for marijuana are down, but, I'm sorry, for all drugs, I should say. Positivity rate for all drugs is down. Of course, when we all know that when we're talking about drug tests and urine screening, we're mostly talking about marijuana, right? We don't have to go over that again. So most of your drug testing for pot is down, except for pre-employment. And why this is such a concern, and I saw this in the business page in Huffington Post, is some of these business leaders say it's getting tougher and tougher to get new employees because so many of them are failing the drug test. Has it occurred to you to not have the drug test? So here's another quote here, is that, and this is Barry Sample again, Dr. Sample. The Drug Enforcement Administration insisted in a January filing that marijuana legalization would promote increased drug use. But Dr. Sample, who said Quest has been compiling data on workplace drug tests for 25 years, said he has found no correlation in the data between states that have decriminalized or legalized the use of marijuana and the positivity rates for pre-employment drug tests. Got that? The guy who runs the drug testing corporation says it doesn't make a difference whether a state has legalized or decriminalized as to whether or not they have more or fewer pre-employment drug test positives. No correlation. Now, we still have that initial stat, though. Positivity rate from pre-employment urine drug screening in the U.S. general workforce increased by 5.7%. What's going on there? Well, turns out this is one of those cases where behavior may not have changed a whole bunch, but reporting has. You know about this? This is a phenomenon where we talk about let's take a stat, pick one out of the air. Domestic abuse. All right. Is there more domestic abuse now than there was in the 1950s? Probably not, but there's more women and men and people reporting it, right? It was just more culturally accepted to smack the wife around in the 50s, and it didn't get reported as domestic violence. Didn't mean it wasn't there. Child molestation stats, maybe even when we talk about autism stats. Maybe we just are better at diagnosing it now, right? And we have a better idea what's going on. That same type of function is going on with this data, with this 5.7% increase in the positivity rate. This is from that story on the PR Newswire. This is Dr. Sample putting it out here. Due in part to advances in oral fluid technology implemented in late 2011, the oral fluid marijuana positivity rate was 70% higher than that of urine. Huh? Let me explain that. Let me break it down. Most of the time when you go to take drug tests, you go to get a job, right? It's a pee test, pee in the cup, right? Now, from about late 2011 on, more and more employers have had this oral fluid test. It's basically a spit test. They take a little swab and they get the spit from inside your cheek, and then they can detect that from that whether or not you've been using certain drugs, pot and other drugs. Now, if you can't figure out that it's probably a lot harder to cheat a drug test when it's a swab in your mouth versus the pee test, then now you're going to start to understand why the drug test positives have gone up. If you were the guy who was working, the shift job and every day strapping a plastic dong to your body with a little bag of heated urine, a little blister pack that opens up and heats that up so that when you had to take your pee test for random and that guy wasn't looking, you could whip out your fake urine out of your fake dong. If you were that guy, well, now you're going to turn positive when they do the oral fluid test because there's no fake dong for that. You can't do that. And that's the other part of drug testing that is really, just as an aside, that if employers don't realize this is going on, that many of their employees are smoking pot and wearing dildos to work so that they can continue to smoke pot at home. So that if you pop them for a test, they can, and they're strapping on, they've got fake pee strapped with them at all times. You realize this is going on because of this stupid policy? Anyway, so Dr. Sample continues to say, quote, simply put, it's extremely difficult to cheat an oral fluid collection when someone is observing, end quote. So yeah, the drug test positive rate went up by 5.7%, but we've got these oral tests that are coming up 70% positive more often than the urine tests, a 70% greater charge. And now we're getting more oral tests being rolled out in the workplace. So yes, of course, the rate went up 5.7% because now you're actually catching the people who were getting away with it before, who were cheating before. There's no more people using marijuana and having to deal with the workplace. You're just better at catching them now. Now, here's where it will start to make you kind of angry. Marijuana continues to be the most commonly detected drug. Data from urine drug tests showed that marijuana positives in the U.S. drug force are 2%. That's right, 2%, 1 out of 50. But they are nearly twice that of amphetamines, which are at 0.86%, ranked as the second most commonly detected drug. Cocaine positivity rates are down 14.6%. But amphetamine positives continued a 5-year upward trend. In urine drug testing in the U.S. general workforce, the amphetamine positivity rate increased 11.7%. In the federally mandated safety-sensitive workforce, amphetamine positives increased 6.8%. So while you're making a big whoop about what us pot smokers might be up to and how we might affect the workplace, people on meth are getting caught more and more. And remember, for these guys to get caught with amphetamines, they had to have done it fairly recently because that drug doesn't stay in your system long enough to get detected. That's just shocking to me. Now, as we go through this, of course, they always have their point as to why this is important, and that's because substance abuse negatively affects the workplace through lost productivity, workplace accidents and injuries, employee absenteeism, low morale, increased illness, etc., etc. Well, I decided to look that up. I was wondering just how productive are American workplaces these days. From the Bureau of Labor Statistics, from the fourth quarter of 2011 to the fourth quarter of 2012, productivity increased 0.5%. Hours increased 2.5%. Productivity up 1.9%. Annual average up 0.7%. Manufacturing up 2.1%. Durable goods up 2.7%. Productivity's up all across the board. And injury and illness data, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and OSHA, the injuries and illnesses and the lost work because of them are down to the lowest levels ever recorded. You got a solution in search of a problem here with these drug tests, people. Hey, that's all the time we got for this show. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for Hour 2. We got more news and views to get to. A bunch of stuff I couldn't fit into Hour 1. Maybe even some more of the presentation. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it,